Hello friends, this is Jack from Choco Anime Recap. And today, I'm going to recap the 2023 romance comedy anime called Don't Toy With Me Miss Nagatoro, Season 2, Episode 4 and Episode 5. But before that, it's my humble request to every person who is watching this. Please like this video and share it with your friends. Misaki invited Senpai to her house and offered him some snacks. She revealed that her little sister had talked about him and asked if there was anything he wanted to know about her. She assured him that she would answer any questions he had about her sister. As Senpai was about to ask his question, Nagatoro entered the kitchen in her pajamas, with messy hair and blushing in embarrassment upon realizing that he was there. She scolded him for not calling or warning her before coming to her house. However, Senpai replied that he had sent her a text, but Nagatoro yelled back that she was sleeping. Nagatoro's sister then prepared a special dessert to calm her down and suggested that they all sit and chat for a while. Despite feeling ashamed, Nagatoro asked Senpai to come to her room and asked her sister not to enter. In Nagatoro's room, after Senpai arrived with a printout, Nagatoro expressed her gratitude. Nagatoro and Senpai were alone in her room, enjoying some pudding when Nagatoro playfully offered to feed him. Senpai, not wanting to miss the chance to play along, opened his mouth. Just then, Nagatoro's sister walked in and caught them in a compromising position, jokingly suggesting that Senpai was interested in every detail of her little sister. Embarrassed, Nagatoro sent her sister out of the room and then asked Senpai to explain what her sister's comment meant. Following Misaki's comment, an uncomfortable silence settled between Nagatoro and Senpai. The boy, feeling the awkwardness, attempted to leave as soon as he finished his pudding. However, Nagatoro persuaded him to stay and play a video game with her, just like they did the last time he visited her house. During the game, Senpai noticed that Nagatoro's skills had improved, hinting that she must have practiced in her free time. Then, Nagatoro inquired about the conversation he had with her sister, fearing that he may have intruded into her privacy while she was asleep. Senpai promptly reassured her that he wouldn't meddle in anyone's affairs without permission. After winning a round, Nagatoro proposed to reveal one of her secrets of his choice if he could beat her in the next game. At first, Senpai feigned disinterest, which slightly upset Nagatoro. But later, he accepted the challenge, stating that he was taking her up on that. Playfully teasing him, Nagatoro asked if he wanted to know her measurements or something even bloodier. To everyone's surprise, Senpai requested her first name, leaving her speechless. After realizing that she never told her name to Senpai, Nagatoro felt a bit embarrassed and blushed. However, she tried to act nonchalantly and provocatively asked him why he wanted to know her name. The boy lied and said it would be easier to call her. Nagatoro responded that it didn't matter how he called her, but unfortunately, their conversation was interrupted when the game's time ran out, resulting in Nagatoro's loss. Despite being visibly happy about the bet, Nagatoro played it cool and got ready to tell Senpai her name. However, at the last minute, the boy stopped her and said he didn't want to know her name just because he had won the game. Instead, he wanted to find the courage to ask her directly. Both Nagatoro and Senpai blushed and agreed to wait for that day to come. Just then, Nagatoro's sister barged into the room and called her Haze, bringing a photo album of her primary school years to show to Senpai. Despite Nagatoro's protests, her sister continued to show embarrassing pictures of little Haze to Senpai. Later, as they said goodbye to each other, Nagatoro told Senpai that she would be back at school the following day and suggested he prepare himself, causing him to smile heartily. Upon his return home, Senpai couldn't help but smile as he remembered Nagatoro's name. Fueled by his excitement, he broke out into a run. The next day, Nagatoro, who had fully recovered from her cold, offered to model for Senpai as a way of thanking him for his visit. She suggested a risque pose, lifting her skirt slightly, but Senpai declined, causing Nagatoro to mock him. She then proposed a pose inspired by Bruce Lee's famous kick, which Senpai accepted and started to draw. As he worked, Nagatoro's legs began to tremble, and she fell on top of him. After getting up, she asked him if he had intentionally protected her from the fall, to which he initially denied, causing her to blush and teasingly accuse him of lying. As Senpai and Nagatoro walked to school in the morning after their previous day's encounter, they both felt awkward and unsure of how to address each other. Eventually, Nagatoro showed Senpai her smartphone, displaying a ranking of moves that girls can use to instantly excite men, and pulled him along by the sleeve to demonstrate. However, Senpai wasn't impressed and said it didn't excite him at all, which caused Nagatoro to sulk and repeatedly try to prove him wrong. Frustrated with her persistence, Senpai grabbed Nagatoro's sleeve to stop her, but his timing was off, and he ended up holding her hand instead. Just then, Gamochan, Yoshi, and Sakura appeared, and teased them for holding hands in public. Nagatoro tried to deny it by claiming she was just practicing a judo move on Senpai, but her excuse didn't seem believable to anyone. The morning after Senpai caught the flu and had to take a day off from school, he found himself alone at home due to his mother's business trip. Nagatoro called him to ask why he wasn't at the art club, and upon learning he was sick and alone, she felt guilty for possibly infecting him and went to visit him. When Senpai saw her appear at his window while he was napping, he was happy to see her, but Nagatoro insisted that she wasn't there out of concern for him. Eventually, she convinced him not to worry about infecting her again, and she suggested that he sleep in his bed rather than on the couch. While Senpai was embarrassed to have Nagatoro in his room, she couldn't help but notice how clean it was and wondered where he kept his erotic books. However, when she saw him coughing, she became protective and put him to bed. Not knowing where to find a thermometer, Nagatoro used her own forehead to take his temperature, and they both blushed at the intimacy of the gesture. Nagatoro then joked about how red Senpai's face was, breaking the tension between them. As Senpai rested bedridden due to the flu, Nagatoro placed a cool, wet cloth on his forehead and sat by his side to nurse him back to health. She had canceled her plans for the day to care for him, and had even called her family to let them know she would be home late due to looking after Senpai. As the day wore on, Nagatoro decided to make some porridge for Senpai. She carefully prepared the homemade meal and fed it to him, hoping it would help soothe his fever. As he ate, Senpai's mind began to wander, and he started to imagine himself as Nagatoro's husband. In his feverish state, he began to thank her for taking care of him and called her Hayes, which was her last name. Nagatoro was surprised and pleased by this, but she tried to play it cool and tease Senpai by daring him to repeat it. However, Senpai was too dazed and fell asleep, still in the midst of his hallucination. Nagatoro sat by his side, watching over him as he slept. She gently woke him up to ask him to repeat her name and even begged him to say it with a soft "Please." Feeling emboldened by the moment, Nagatoro leaned in and asked Senpai if she could kiss him. He didn't respond, but Nagatoro took his silence as a sign of consent and leaned in to kiss him. But just as their lips were about to touch, Senpai's mother returned home, surprising them both. Nagatoro quickly composed herself and explained that she had been looking after Senpai while he was sick. The next morning, Senpai woke up feeling much better and couldn't help but wonder if the previous day's events were just a dream. He was surprised when his mother asked him about the adorable girl who had taken care of him and whether or not she was his girlfriend. Senpai's face turned bright red at the question, and he stammered out that Nagatoro was just a kohai from school. As Senpai walked to school that day, his thoughts kept drifting back to the previous day and the fact that Nagatoro had come to his house and taken care of him while he was sick. He felt a sense of gratitude towards her, and resolved to thank her properly when he saw her. When Nagatoro and Senpai ran into each other on the way to school, there was a moment of mutual embarrassment. Senpai thanked her for taking care of him, and Nagatoro shrugged it off, saying it was nothing since he had done the same for her in the past. But then, as she often did, Nagatoro decided to tease Senpai by kicking him for having been so cocky, and calling her by name the previous day. In his attempt to stop her, Senpai accidentally grabbed her leg, causing both of them to blush furiously. To their surprise, Game-chan, Yoshi, and Sakura appeared just then, mirroring the opening scene. And this brings the anime to an end. Comment for part 6. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on another video. Until next time, take care.